Hey everyone, this is WobblyWallaby. Today I'm doing a sneak peek for the new hero class, Hollgrehenn. Here he is in the Alberta map, which is the new map released on the China beta test server too. I'll go through the skills, build, and give my thoughts on what tier I think Hollgrehenn is. Stay tuned to find out. The class model for Hollgrehenn looks great. It definitely looks better than the Hollgrehenn in Frontera. If you hate Hollgrehenn due to all the pain he has caused you in the past, you can now direct that pain towards your enemies with this interesting hero class. You can affect the refined level of your gear and your enemy's gear. Hollgrehenn is the hero class for the Lightbringer line. Thanks to my wife Fiery Fairy for helping with the translations. I'll first begin with the skills. His core passive is called Number 1 Blacksmith in the mainland. You have to level it up with the second line ruins. He has various skills that causes him to swing his hammer, and by default he can increase his equipment refine level by 1 and can break the upper limit of the refine level. At level 4, if your armor is refined 12 or higher, enemies can't use ignore defense or ignore magic defense against you, which is great for PvP. At level 7, you get bonus physical attack percentage if your weapon and accessories reach level 17. Before you fight bosses or tough enemies, you can always swing your hammer using skills to boost up your refine level. And after swinging my hammer, you can see that my refine level has gone up and I have gear that has gone beyond refine 15. Next is the active skill Hammer of Destruction. It deals 2000% of your attack to enemies within 4 meters and has a 20% chance to reduce the refine level of all equipment and headgear of the enemy by 1, lasting 15 seconds. The probability also increases by 1% for every 10 points of luck over your enemy. The skill modifier is at 2000%, which is decent, and the PvP effect to reduce refine levels is really nice. A ruin that affects the skill is the Artisan Slam Star Ruin. For every weapon refine level increase, your Hammer of Destruction damage can vary between 1 and 4%. If you can get 4% and your skill gets your refine level above 15, it can scale very well. If you need BCC to buy runes for this class in the future, then try Smile.1. Smile.1 allows you to get discounted BCC and premiums for Ragnarok Mobile. They have been around for more than 8 years and have lots of global business partners for other games too. I'll put a link in the description, and thanks to Smile.1 for sponsoring this video. Next, the passive skill Extreme Exercise. There is a ton of text here, so I'll just summarize. If your accessories or weapons goes beyond the upper limit, each refine level gives you final damage bonus of 3%. If your armor exceeds the upper limit, each refine level gives you final damage reduction of 3%. You can also force your PvP opponent to hit you with normal attack every time you reduce refine level of the enemy, which seems pretty annoying. Next, the active skill Hot Flying Anvil. You can throw an anvil to hit enemies along the line. Its damage is based on your offhand refine level, and you have a 30% chance to reduce the refining level of your enemy's weapon to +3 for 10 seconds, and it increases further by your luck. Against monsters, you reduce the final damage of the target by 30% for 10 seconds. This anvil does a ton of damage, and reminds me of Thor's hammer. This is the primary burst skill and has a very high 3200% attack multiplier. Also, your offhand refine level contributes to the damage too. There is a 7-second cooldown, so you can't overly spam this as easy as other classes. The effect it has in PvP is also insane. It basically makes people feel like free to play. Your enemies can kiss their level 15 refined weapons goodbye. This skill is affected by the Precision Forging Star Rune, which gives a higher chance to change the refine level of the weapon, so this is purely for PvP. If you have 30%, then you have a 60% chance to reduce refine level of the weapon, which is pretty nice. Next is the passive skill Lucky Trolley. Better equip a cart so you get that extra 50 points of luck. You'll also get physical defense and magic defense. There is no downside to equipping a cart. Next is the passive skill Blacksmith's Fortune. If you have 50 million Zenny, then you'll do 50% more damage. I really wish they had a higher cap for this skill. It would have been really funny if you could scale it to like a billion zenny. Oh well, maybe too unfair. Next is the passive skill, Hot-Blooded Refining. This gives you more attack for every refine level added, and also gives you a lifesteal effect. This is a really nice passive, and having a built-in lifesteal is great too. Next is the passive skill, High Heat Reaction. This gives you a chance to stun enemies, and also severely slow their movement speed if they have stun resist. This is great for PvP, and is an annoying passive. Next is the active skill, Fiery Furnace. You have a 60% chance to burn targets within 3 meters of you, reflect 15% fire damage, and to increase your fire attack by 50% for 30 seconds. I like this skill primarily because if you have a fire converter or use the skill Magnum Break, you can greatly increase your damage. Here I am with a fire converter hitting my home dummy. Then I use the skill Fiery Furnace, and now I hit for much higher damage. This skill is also affected by the Ruin Flame Piercing, which can also add great penetration percentage. If you get 20% penetration, that's really good. Next is the active skill, Lucky Refine. This is a way to improve the refine level of armor and headgear of teammates within 9 meters, but it cannot exceed Refine 15. If the target is at Refine 15 already, then you get 10% extra physical and magic damage reduction, so this is a nice party buff. The Ruin Craftsmanship Blessing Star Rune can increase the duration for up to an extra 8 seconds. Next is the active skill Craftsman's Heart. This gives a teammate and himself Steel Body, which increases melee and ranged physical damage reduction by 60%. You also can't get your equipment and headwear destroyed or removed, but unfortunately your movement speed is limited to 150% for 10 seconds. This effect cannot be dispelled. This gives you great reductions, but the slower movement speed is a pain. The Ruin Indestructible Rune can also increase the movement speed for up to 30% more. Next is the active skill Focus Mode. You can cast Hammer of Destruction times 100% damage to enemies within 4 meters every 0.6 seconds and hit 7 times. You also inherit the negative effects of Hammer of Destruction. Your hit correction increases by 50% and your movement speed is fixed at 100%. This reminds me of Lightbringer's Hammerfall, but you can move around and it keeps happening. It's a pretty interesting skill that has a great damage multiplier. This is your primary DPS skill to use against tough bosses. The reduced movement speed is a pain though. The rune called Rune of Concentration allows you to have higher abnormal status resistance. Next is the active skill Alloy Smelting, which lets you make special alloys. The duration is increased by 50% for yourself. When you use this skill, you get a new interface to craft 8 different alloys. There are 4 elemental ones which have the same effect, so I'll just do the lightning one. This increases your wind attribute armor by 1 level, lasts 60 seconds, and after use, all Hollgrehen's made alloys are on cooldown for 300 seconds. These elemental alloys don't seem super powerful in my opinion. Next is the Serenity alloy. This makes your variable cast time minus 100% for 60 seconds. The cooldown to use the Hollgrehenn made alloys is 150 seconds. Next is Holy Alloy. This makes your own buff effects unable to be dispelled and lasts 30 seconds. There is the 150 second cooldown yet again. Next is the Spike Alloy. This gives you anti-fatal and reflects the damage for 10 seconds. The cooldown is also 150 seconds. This is probably the most interesting alloy for PvP, since reflecting damage and anti-fatal is pretty amazing. Next is Lucky Alloy. This increases your refine level for all your equipment by 1. I personally don't like this alloy because simply by swinging your hammer, you can get your refine level up pretty quickly. Again, you had the 150 second cooldown. Next is his class specific weapon, Hammer of Ingenuity. This is definitely a PvP weapon since it has a lot of equipment breaking text, which doesn't apply to MVPs. I think this also gives you an idea of this class's focus, which appears to be for PvP. Next, here's my gear. This is the gear that I've mostly been playing around with. It's definitely high end, so I can see the potential of Hollgrehenn. For Oracle Mirror, I use the plus 15 combustible knife, and for Ancient Relic, I use the Elf's Piccolo. Here are my stats with B meals. I'm not doing any self buffs because once you start getting your refined levels high, it's hard to tell what your base damage really is. For attributes, I maxed out Strength, Luck, and then the remaining into Vitality. I have 38,000 attack, 80.8% penetration, 30% skill damage increase, 217.5% damage percentage, 107.7% physical damage increase, 149.5% ignore defense. Here's my adventure handbook. I have 4,831 attack and 127% attack deposits, so definitely very high. Next are my auto and manual skill bar. In my auto bar, I have focus mode and hammer of destruction. If you're boss hunting low board MVPs, then hot flying anvil is nice, since it's ranged and has high damage. In my manual bar, I have prepare for elite, fiery furnace, lucky refine, hot flying anvil, hammer of destruction, and focus mode. My prepare for elite has lucky refine and extreme exercise. Next, what tier do I think Hollgrehenn is? First, for burst damage, I give it A tier. Hot Flying Anvil has a very high skill multiplier, and especially if you use a fire converter. The burst isn't going to be good as Saitama, which I would consider S tier. Next for DPS, I'd give this an A tier. With my current gear and deposits, it's definitely a struggle against the legend bosses. Focus mode is great, but not S tier. Another reason why I would consider this A tier is you can convert to other elements so you can double damage things. I was able to test this against the Legend Golem. I was unable to clear this without using my water attack percentage accessories, which also had the random attribute of water attack percentage plus 12%. Without it, it was an absolute struggle, so I wouldn't be fooled too much by videos where people murder the legend bosses. It's not that easy. Over time you can see the damage increase as my refine level goes up. Getting interrupted when you're doing focus mode is also a real pain when this golem does this to me. This is something that really annoys me. On global, with my Saitama with about 70% deposits, I can clear this golem much faster than this, so this is why I don't find this particularly broken, because my existing class with a much worse handbook can do much better. Eventually the golem does go down, and yeah, it wasn't that easy. Next is speed. I'd give this a C. You have two skills that can cap your move speed. One that you use particularly often is focus mode, which sets it to 100% move speed. Now contrast that with a novice guardian who has AoE and can move at 330% move speed. Also, you have no speed boosters either, so when I tried boss hunting, it was not fun. You're just too slow and you'll lose to other faster classes. Next is AoE. I would consider this A tier because focus mode can be converted and it can do a lot of damage. The only thing I don't like about it is it's not ranged, it's melee, so you do have to walk a bit towards the target. Next is survivability. I'd give this a B tier. You do have skills and passives that provide you with damage reductions and you do have lifesteal, but I found some other classes just have better survivability and anti-death. Next are required ruins. Hero classes are annoying because you need second line ruins. I'd give this a B tier since your damage without a level 7 core passive is going to be suboptimal, but you can still survive. I'd consider an S tier hero for PvE would be Genos because your damage doesn't increase based on your core passive, just your survivability, and Genos already has very high damage. For PvE, I'd give this a B tier. To be honest, I don't see myself ever using this for PvE because I don't think it can compete with my Saitama, Novice Guardian, or Taekwon. Those are S tier classes and are much better for boss hunting and dealing DPS in legend instances. For PvP, I'd give this an A tier. Messing with people's refine level is something that you can't really defend against right now, and it messes with their refined bonuses. Even if you're free to play, if you show up and hurl the anvil around, It's going to annoy people, which is always a great thing to do in PvP. You can enjoy making those whales feel the pain of the free-to-play life. Lucky Refine and Craftsman's Heart can also benefit your party, so you do have some buffs to help your team as well. Overall, I'd say this class was designed for PvP more than PvE. What do you think about Hollgrehenn? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Here's a video that I would recommend. And if you want more sneak peeks, check out this playlist over here.